So we are in John chapter 20. Last time we looked at verses 1 through 10. So we'll pick it up with verse 11. Before we do, we'll pray. Father, thank you for this time that we can gather together tonight. We ask that you would take your word now, bless it to our hearts, conform us to Jesus' image. In his name we pray. Amen. So the first 10 verses was the early part of the resurrection account. We see that in verse 1 there that Mary Magdalene went early. It was still dark, and she went to the sepulchre, and we talked about what it is that she might have been anticipating. It didn't appear that she was anticipating a resurrection. She was anticipating having seeing the scene as it was when the tomb was sealed. And so I'm sure she expected to see the guards present. And so in a very sorrowful, mournful state, can't really determine exactly what was going through her mind, obviously, but I would be, I'm sure we could agree and say that her heart was still broken because of what had taken place just a few days before that. And so when she gets there, she's taken off guard, and it wasn't what she was thinking was going to be there, because when she gets there, the stone was rolled away and from the sepulchre, and she did not go inside immediately, and so, but she ran back to tell Peter, and John was there as well, and they in turn leave and pretty much it looked like immediately dropped what they were doing and went to the sepulchre as well. And then John outruns Peter, and he stoops down, and what he sees is the linen cloths in verse 5. The linen cloths were lying, but he didn't go in. And then he sees that they were set now, and you have to kind of think that obviously Mary said that her first thought was they took him away. They took the Lord out in verse 2. They took the Lord out, and we don't know where they laid him. And so now when you come to when John goes into the sepulchre, he sees the stooping down, he looks in, he sees the linens lying there, and you got to kind of wonder, okay, if somebody took him, why would they leave the linens? Why not just take body and linens and just go? And then Peter catches up with John, and he also goes, and now he goes inside, and he sees that the linen cloth line, and then he sees the napkin that was about the head of the body of Jesus was folded up. And what person, if they were going to steal a body, would take the thing around their head, fold it up, separate it from the rest of the linens? And so things are starting not to make any kind of logical sense. If a thief was going to come in, do they take that much time in the location the place that they're trying to rob? No. They want in, they want out, because they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be caught. So now things are starting to maybe click. You see, they're probably not making much sense. Let's face it, we talked about this a little bit last week when they were told repeatedly by Jesus himself that he was going to rise again. They saw him raise other people from the dead. But it's a whole lot different when somebody is raising someone from the dead and they themselves are raised from the dead with no one else's help. Even though Jesus' own words were, I'm going to lay my life down and I'm going to take it up again. But the reality is, nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever seen it. And so, and we'll see that kind of, as we go down to verse 11, that starting down there, we have to sometimes put ourselves in their shoes. It's easy for us reading the story and looking back going, how could they not have got that? Well, it's the same thing that we go through today. They weren't really convinced because it's something that was so outside logical thinking. And so to come down hard on them and to criticize all that, well, you, I can't, I wouldn't have been like that. Really? Really? If we're that convinced of the things that Jesus tells us, why do we struggle with things when he tells us that he'll never leave or forsake us? We feel oftentimes alone and abandoned by God, even though we know he says he'll never leave us or forsake us. And yet we still find it hard to trust him. And that's because we battle with this sinful nature that still resides inside of us. And they were no different. So verse 11 says, but Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping, and as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the sepulchre. Now, Peter and John, they left. They went ahead, and verse 10 says that they went home away again to their own home. And again, think about what's going through their minds. Was it true what Mary thought, that somebody had took the body? And if that's the case, now what? Now, what do these guys really do? What story do they tell? What is going on? What might be going through their mind? Mary stayed, and she goes down, and she stoops down and looks into the sepulchre. She's trying to get a better look. Verse 12 says, and seeth two angels in white, sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Now, notice that the angel wasn't visible. I won't necessarily say wasn't there, but certainly wasn't visible for Peter and John. Visible for Mary. And she is most likely not anticipating that either. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. Now, when you read this, I don't know what this angel, looked like. Peter and John didn't mention anything about anybody being inside the sepulchre, evidently from Mary. So if I'm Mary and I'm thinking and I'm seeing this, it's like she wasn't even necessarily connecting that there was somebody alive in that sepulchre. Wasn't any of the disciples. Speaking to her, and again, this was not an insulting term. It wasn't like the angel was insulting her by calling her woman. It was a derogatory. It was actually a very respectful use of verbiage in that day. And I get envision the angel just asking the simple question, why are you crying? Why are you weeping? And her response is logical in her mind, because they have taken who's the they? Well, we don't know. She didn't know, but somebody's they. She was obviously thinking that, well, it wasn't just one person, because one person could not have possibly rolled that stone away and done this, because the stone was big enough and to overtake the guards, and where were they? And so it was a they. Obviously not thinking it was going to be any of the disciples, because why would they do that? And then again, when you think about it, why would the Romans? Did the Romans really care about Jesus? No. Do you think really that the Pharisees and the Jews and the Sanhedrin and the Sadducees would have been involved in any kind of idea to take the body of Jesus? What would they have done with it, and why? And so things are in some senses very illogical. And so she explains, her heart to the angel that they've taken the Lord, and I don't know where they have laid him. Here is still an unbelief that he was risen. And notice, that's kind of the same way that lost people are. Here it is. She has the evidence that Jesus rose. She had his word that he was going to. Now the events take place. She doesn't connect it. She doesn't get it. It's still unbelief. And that's where a lot of people sit today. As a matter of fact, that's where you and I sat. We might have heard a lot about God. We might have been told 1 billion times all our life, Jesus has risen. As a kid, going to all those Easter morning services that we went to, being told, and it was proclaimed, Jesus is alive, he is risen, we're celebrating, and we walk out, I don't know that I really believe that. Much like Mary now. The evidence was pointing to it, just the way Jesus had, and God doesn't do anything without purpose. Just the way the linen cloths were separated and the napkin around his head was folded, taking the time to give evidence that his word was true. Verse 14, and when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. So now, her heart condition is so broken and sad that Jesus himself appears, and she didn't even realize it. Didn't recognize she was in his presence. And you and I could sit here and shake our head and scratch our head and think, how is that possible? How much could he have possibly changed in his features from what she saw previously, prior to crucifixion? Did he change that greatly? Well, again, it could very well be her unbelief was not allowing her to see Jesus as he was then. Jesus as he was when he walked the earth was different. Why was he different? He hadn't yet ascended. But there was something very different about him. And her blindness and her unbelief about him actually truly rising again kept the reality of that resurrection from getting into her heart. Blinded her to the very physical presence of Jesus. And we wonder why people have a hard time believing when they can't see him physically. And we're sitting here telling people, he's alive! So we ought not be really that hard on poor Mary. Verse 15, Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Asks the same question that the angel did. Why are you weeping? So now, thank you. So now we see that not only did did Mary see Jesus, he talks to her, and she doesn't recognize his voice. So now sees him, hears him talking to her, and she still doesn't recognize it as him. What is getting in the way? Her faith. She still didn't believe he was alive. Asks the same question. Why are you weeping? Followed by another question. Whom seekest thou? Who are you looking for? Why are you even here? Well, for what reason did you come down here? Came down here to mourn? Maybe like myself and others who have made visits to cemetery. I guarantee you it would be shocking to me to go down to Bushnell Cemetery and see that grave opened up. I might be one or two. Where have you done? What have you done with her remains? And maybe it would be if she was standing right next to me. I'm talking about my wife now. You all know that. Maybe I wouldn't recognize her. Maybe I wouldn't hear her voice right away. Because it'd be an unbelievable thing. That's kind of what the experience is here. Now, in her mind, look at her response in verse 15. She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. So she addresses him as a gardener, sir. Again, because she didn't recognize him. She's having conversation and dialogue with him, and she still doesn't get it. Could she have believed him for forgiveness and not resurrection? Maybe. Possible, I suppose. Think about that implication. If we can believe Jesus for forgiveness, why can't we believe him, or why shouldn't we believe him for resurrection? If all it took was his death, would we have a living Savior? No. He had to be alive. We really can't have one without the other. And so maybe she was not even really believing that I'm truly forgiven, because he died. He's not here anymore. And so all she's interested in is the dead, lifeless body that was placed in that tomb. That's all she's thinking about. Where have you taken him? Please tell me. If you've taken him, please tell me where you've taken him, and I'll take him. I don't know what she was going to do with him, but I'll take him. Verse 16. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. Now we have a difference. She responds to his call. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. What was the difference? In verse 15, he says woman. In verse 16, he says Mary. What's the difference? Yes. He got very personal. Called her by name. That should be very encouraging to us, because he calls us by name. It's not just some generic thing, although he does say that if he's lifted up, he'll draw all people unto himself. But it's a very personal call, and she responded because now she recognized his voice. Jesus is calling every single day. And people are deaf to it. He might even be calling some by name, specifically. And they may still deny it. She addressed him now as Rabboni, which is the same master, so she recognizes it's him. She recognizes the authority of his call. And he says our name like no other. If you've heard Jesus say your name, I don't know what that sounds like to you. I'm not going to say it was some audible voice that came down, but the moving of the Spirit on our heart. If we have never truly heard our name called, why? Have we truly opened up our heart to receive the truth? Have we allowed the unbelief to be overcome by belief? Nick said it pretty well this morning, that there's a lot of people out there that have had their behavior modified. They heard what to do. Just pray this prayer. Come on, pray this prayer. Or, do this and do that. Much like a lot of these disciples. Much like maybe Mary did. But they've never actually believed. And Jesus gave them all the truth. Gave them the evidence. It wasn't just the words. He supported it with tangible, physical evidence that science says isn't there. It was there. And then he calls by name. Stop. Okay. Calls you by name. Have you heard, truly heard that call? And what was the response? Now Mary, you can imagine, is excited. Now it's all of what she saw, her remorse, her broken heart is now overflowing. And it doesn't say it in the text, but as you read verse 17, Jesus saith unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. What he's saying there is, don't cling to me now. So she was already in the act of embracing and holding him. And oh my goodness, you can imagine tears were probably flowing out of her. Of joy and relief because it is truly him. Excitement. And Jesus says, don't cling to me. I've not yet ascended unto my Father. Now there's speculation, and I'm not sure that it even really matters, as to whether Jesus had actually ascended twice, once privately and then once when he ascended in the book of Acts. Don't know either way. I don't know that it really matters. But either way, he says, I haven't ascended yet. So he says, it's not like I'm going anywhere permanently just yet. That could be the reaction why Mary was clinging so tightly. Now that you're here, I don't want you to go again. I lost you once. I don't want to lose you again. That kind of thing may have been going through her mind. And really that's kind of how we should be with Jesus. That we want to be so close to him that we don't want to let him go. Well, if our walk was that close to him, how different may our lives really be? So you can see the emotion, the excitement. But he says, go, tell my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father. So evidently, after this, he was going to ascend. I ascend to my Father, and to your Father, and to my God, and to your God. These statements here are what some use to suggest that Jesus isn't God. Why? Why do you suppose they would suggest that Jesus isn't God with those words that he just said? Think about what he said. Your Father, I ascended to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. If Jesus is God, why would he need a God? Why would he have a God? If he's God. And yet he clearly says, he's my Father, and he's my God. Ever thought about that? It's there. In his humanity. In his humanity, he submitted himself to his Father's will. That's what makes him the ultimate demonstration of what it is to be submissive to God. He said himself, I came down here to do the will of my Father, not my own. So in his humanity, who was he saying was his leader? God, his Father. He was totally submissive to his Father. So even Jesus can say, I know what it is to have to submit to my Father. I know what it is to do that. And he did it perfectly. And he tells us, hey, you can't do that without me. The only way we can be that submissive to, and notice that, he pointed out, my Father and yours. He's your Father too. Jesus wants his Father to be our Father too. And he, by his grace and by his Spirit, he has given us the same power to be able to submit to the will of God that he did. Same power. And he, remember, even in John chapter 10, he said that we are one with him as he is with his Father. So he's including us, my God and your God. It's the same. But we can't do it without him. A lot of people try to make God their God, but they don't want to include Jesus in that process. They don't want to include Jesus at all. And so, in other words, they really want to be their own God. And then verse 18. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord and that he had spoken these things unto her. Now imagine, if you're them, they go to the sepulchre. Stones rolled away. They rolled back. Now, I am not sure exactly what Peter and John might have said when they got back there, but now she returns and said, oh yeah, by the way, I saw him. I talked to him. And he told me these things. What do you suppose the reaction was? Yeah. Now, John doesn't record it, but Mark does. If we look back at Mark chapter 16, and we look at verses 9 through 11, it tells us, now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. And when she went and told them that he had been with him, as they mourned and wept, and when they had heard that he was alive and had been seen of her, believed not. So you're crazy! You're a fool! What do you mean he's alive? And notice, Jesus didn't appear to a man. He appeared to a woman first. She was the first to see him. She was the first to hear his voice. She was the first to touch him. And she was the first to tell of the good news. I don't have an answer as to why God did that. Maybe it's because he knew their hearts so well. Maybe it's because of the more radical lifestyle change that Mary Magdalene had. We could speculate all day long. But if you think about it too, why didn't they believe her? Probably because she was a woman. And women weren't supposed to speak to men like that in Jewish culture. So it becomes maybe even more unbelievable to their eyes and to their ears that it came from her. Perhaps just another test of, did they really believe? Remember, what kinds of things were going on What kind of conversations were taking place when she met them? Well, if we look at Matthew chapter 28, in verses 11 through 15, one of the things that was going on, now when they were going, behold, some of the watch came into the city and showed unto the chief priests and all things that were done. And when they were assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers, saying, Say ye, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept. And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him to secure you. So they took the money and did as they were taught. And this saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. Maybe they were aware of what was going on here. Maybe they were trying to say, well, man, oh man, this is what the Jews are being told. And our lives are in danger. Because if the disciples were the ones that stole the body to maybe prove a resurrection, maybe it's worth hunting them down and killing them. So, maybe they weren't really paying attention to what Mary was saying. They obviously didn't have the same kind of excitement. And if you think about it, we are the Mary Magdalens of today. We're trying to proclaim a risen Savior, a person we've never physically heard or seen. I don't know about you, but I have never, to my knowledge, I've never heard an audible voice of Jesus speak to me. And we're trying to tell them to place their faith and trust into what this book says. No more than a lot of people put their faith and trust into some science book or some other textbook. So what's the difference? What is the tangible evidence that people can see that Jesus is truly alive? It's to change lives. See, one of the beauties of this whole thing is as nervous and confused and what's going through the head, maybe the sorrow and trying to be worried about what the Jews are going to come after them, all this other kind of stuff. One of the most beautiful things is the Holy Spirit of promise hadn't been given yet. And when that day came, boy, all of a sudden, the boldness to speak the name of Jesus. When Paul was on that road to Damascus, and all of a sudden, the hater of Christians, the murderer of Christians, the zealous one thinking he's doing God a favor, murdering them on that road to Damascus, boom, radical change. Now he's speaking for the name of Jesus and not bowing down to anyone. Whether he was in prison, beaten, thrown out of the city, didn't matter. That's the power of the resurrection. If it wasn't true, why do it? Why would anybody risk their life for a fable or a story that wasn't true? Because ultimately, when squeezed to the point of make a decision, life or death, which is it? Do you really believe this Jesus is alive? I've never experienced that. Have you? I'm sure all of us would like to say, yeah, we would never cave in. the power of the Holy Spirit. We shouldn't. But the day's coming. As we get turned further and further away from the light and drift off into the darkness, the day's coming. In the meantime, you and I never see that day approaching. What is important? Saving our skins when somebody confronts us about what we truly believe, or standing firm. As Nick said this morning, that as our minds are conformed to the image and to think as Jesus does, remember the road he walked. Remember the rejection and the pain that he went through. And we shouldn't expect any less. We should actually anticipate that it's coming. And some conversations are hard to have. Nick said it again this morning, that sometimes we don't want to lose a friend. But we'll let him go off into eternity without Jesus. Sometimes we're so mad at a person, we don't want to work to restore a relationship. But we'll let him die in hell. Because I'm hurt. Sometimes we withhold the truth and love of the gospel because I don't like that person's color skin. I don't like this about them. I don't like that about them. I don't like this about them. Whatever it is that we can come up with. They treated me so badly. There is no forgiveness, no room for forgiveness in my heart. And yet, Paul wrote, we ought to be forgiving. And even Jesus said, we ought to be forgiving as God forgave you. And God forgave me. And if we're not going to be that forgiving, what are we telling Jesus? Your forgiveness isn't good enough for that person. I determined it. I'm the judge. I got this one, Lord. I am not going to love them for you. Even though you loved me when I was a wicked, vile person in my heart. That's the power of the resurrection. That's the difference the resurrection makes. That's the difference they were going to soon experience. Let's pray. Father, again, thank you for your goodness and your kindness and your love for us. Thank you for this word. Thank you for the accounts that we have of simple people, like Mary Magdalene, like Peter, like John, and all the others that we read about. They're really no different than us. Sin is sin. Darkened hearts are darkened hearts, no matter what time and century and place that we lived in history, and the ones that are going to come after us. Lord, sin is sin. So help us to be mindful of that. Help us to always remember, Father, how much we have been forgiven, that we may share that love and forgiveness with others. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.